Good evening, and welcome to the 84th Annual Meeting of People's Energy Cooperative. My name is Gwen Stevens, and I'm the Director of Cooperative Relations. Thank you for joining us this evening online. While this is our 84th annual meeting, January 2021 marked the 85th anniversary of the Cooperative's founding back in 1936. A milestone year I want to make sure we acknowledge because it is on the shoulders of those who established this organization and built it that we stand today. Before we begin, let's cover how you can ask a question as well as a couple of announcements. On both YouTube and Facebook, you can ask a question in the comments section. We just ask that you include your full name in the question so that if it doesn't get answered tonight, we can always follow up with you later. We have staff monitoring both sites, and they will collect all the questions. We will do our best to answer as many as we can in the hour we have together this evening at the end of the meeting. The 80th annual meeting of Darylin Power Cooperative is planned for Wednesday, June 9th. Due to the COVID pandemic, Darylin is hosting a hybrid meeting and offering a virtual option. If you would like to participate either in person, if that will be allowed, or virtually, please email memberrelations@peoplesenergy.coop or call the cooperative at 800-214-2694 to express your interest. We will follow up with you once plans are set. You do have to be a member in order to participate. Our final announcement. Due to the continued uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, the cooperative will not be holding the member appreciation event again this year. At this time, I will introduce your board of directors who are present in the conference room this evening, as well as the candidates who will be introduced later. The cooperative board consists of 7 members, 1 from each district, who are elected at large by the members. From District 1, Joe Book. District 2, Ken Wohlers, Secretary Treasurer and Darylin Director for the past 3 years. District 3, Bob Hafes. District 4, Tracy Lauritsen. District 5, Jerry Wooner, Board Chair. District 6, Art Friedrich, Vice Chair and incoming Darylin Director. And from District 7, Jeff Orth. This is your board of directors. Secretary and Treasurer Ken Wohlers will now lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. For those in the room, if you would please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you for 85 years of growth and success as an electric cooperative. We are grateful for your guidance, protection, and generosity. As our industry continues to change, we ask for your continued guidance in living out our mission of providing reliable and affordable electricity. Please help this cooperative to continue to seek out and implement ways we can best serve our members and communities with the resources you have blessed us with. As always, we ask you to protect our employees from the hazards of their work by keeping them safe. May they work with a spirit of service and collaboration as they serve our members and each other. We ask all this in your greater glory and for the service of humanity. Amen. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. At this time, Board Chair Jerry Wooner will officially open the meeting. Mr. Wooner?
Good evening and welcome. I have been informed that the number of members who voted is sufficient to constitute a quorum for the election. Therefore, I officially call this meeting to order. On the screen, you will see the agenda for the evening's meeting. I call for a motion and a second to accept the meeting agenda. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Ken Wohlers will now give the Secretary's report and request approval of the 2020 annual meeting minutes.
All members received notice of the annual meeting and the annual report, which was mailed earlier this month. Notice was also given to the director ballot mailing the first week of March. The minutes of last year's annual meeting were published on page 7 of the annual report. Unless there are objections or corrections, I ask the chair to consider a motion to approve these minutes as published and to dispense with reading them. Mr. Chair?
Unless there are any objections, I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes as published and to dispense with the reading of them. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Got a motion, need a second?
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Let's see. Ken will now present the financial report.
As treasurer of People's Energy Cooperative, it is my responsibility to report to you on the financial conditions of the cooperative. The cooperative's financial statements are on pages 10 and 11 of the annual report, and we received a clean audit report with no adjustments from the accounting firm of Brady Martz and Associates. My report today covers calendar year 2020 and provides yearly comparisons back to 2013. As most of you are aware, we acquired nearly 7,000 accounts and the physical plant assets from Alliant Energy about 5.5 years ago at a total cost of about $18 million. This historic transaction is projected to benefit our cooperative for years to come. As I review the financial information, you will see the positive effects of this acquisition. 2020 was the 5th full year of comparison since the acquisition. Total services in place as of December 31st, 2020 were 23,639, which is an increase of 267 services from 2019. The cooperative's total assets were $172.3 million at the end of the year, compared to $167.9 million in 2019. This is an increase of 3% over the previous year and is due primarily to rebuilding aging power lines for reliability. Total liabilities at year end were $114.3 million, a $3.6 million increase over 2019. Total member equity was $58.3 million, which is just under 34% of our total assets. The equity ratio is important to us, and it is used by our lenders to measure the riskiness of our loans. Your board of directors has set an acceptable range of between 35% and 45%. It is under 35% due to the Alliant acquisition, and we have a plan to place to continue to build equity over the next several years. Capital credits are member equity for ownership in our cooperative and represents a fundamental difference that sets cooperatives apart from other utility businesses models. The cooperative returned almost $1.1 million of capital credits in cash to members during the year. The board authorized capital credits to be returned earlier than normal last year to help relieve financial impact of COVID on members. Our operating revenues were $49.7 million compared to $49.5 million in 2019. The cost of purchased power decreased 1.6% compared to 2019. Purchased power is our largest expense and represents about 56 cents of every dollar we take in. In 2020, we purchased 370 million kilowatt hours of electricity, compared to 374 million kilowatt hours in 2019. This is an increase of 0.5% and was due mainly to the effects weather had on our members' demand for electricity. Excluding the cost of power, total expenses increased by $648,000, or 3.3% over 2019. $440,000 of this increase was due to impairment charges for our Chatfield office and warehouse. In 2020, we completed an appraisal of our Chatfield assets and identified their value to be less than what we had the assets recorded at. Accounting standards required management to indemnify that as an impairment and reduce the value of the assets. Interest on long-term debt decreased $252,000 in 2020. This was due to prepayment of long-term debt and a favorable interest rate environment. Depreciation expense was $5.2 million, an increase of $177,000 from 2019. This increase is directly related to the rebuilding of old line to increase system reliability. The large decrease from 2015 to 2016 was due to depreciation associated with the assets acquired in this Alliant acquisition. Your cooperative had a solid financial year with total margins of $2.7 million. It may appear that margins are going in the wrong direction, but you need to compare what was budgeted, which was a little over $2.5 million. Keep in mind that as a not-for-profit, it is not our goal to gain large margins, but rather to ensure we have just enough to operate the cooperative and some margins to cover the unexpected. As you can see, your cooperative is in a sound financial condition. Mr. Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ken, for the financial report, and thank you for your years of service on the board. For those of you that may not be aware, Ken did not seek re-election in order to retire from his seat at People's Energy Cooperative Board of Directors, a seat he has held since 2003. Ken, on behalf of the cooperative members, Board of Directors, the staff, thank you for your commitment not only to the cooperative, but also to Darien Power Cooperative. We wish you well and hope you can spend more time doing the things you enjoy and being with your family without having to cut time short to prepare for board meetings or to return home early for meetings. Please accept this gift in recognition for your years of dedicated service as a small token of our appreciation for your leadership. May it always remind you of your fond memories and send a sense of pride for the work you have accomplished as a board member. For those in the room, please join me in a round of applause for Ken.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Jerry. Thanks for your words.
Our theme this year is Driving Towards the Future, a theme that captures how we are driven by our vision to be a trusted energy resource for our members, an employer of choice, and a respected business partner with our communities. It also captures the essence of how we are driven to deliver on our mission every day in order to achieve our vision. Our mission is to bring value to our member owners and communities by providing reliable electricity, superior customer service, and innovative energy solutions at fair and reasonable prices. This year we'll be driving towards the future by developing our next strategic plan. If you haven't read the annual report yet, I encourage you to read the message from Mike and me about the progress made on our current strategic goals in 2020. No matter what our new strategic plans ends up being, we will still strive to be the trusted energy resource for our members, an employee of choice, and a respected business partner for our community, because they are simply the right things to do. This evening, I'm going to focus on what it means to be a trusted energy resource. This has evolved since our founding 85 years ago. In the beginning, it simply meant providing electricity to light homes. It quickly grew to include powering home appliances and farm equipment that revolutionized the farming industry. Today, being a trusted energy resource is multifaceted and involves renewable energy, energy management, providing innovative energy solutions, and reliable electricity that can be counted on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I started by talking about reliability. In 2020, we achieved our reliability goal of providing power 99.98% of the time. This means we provided power 8,758 hours and 15 minutes out of the possible 8,760 hours in the year, which is actually 99.989%. It is this reliability expectation of our team and you, the members, that drives us to invest an average of $9.3 million a year in infrastructure and $1.7 million a year in vegetation management to ensure our system is safe, resilient to Mother Nature, and ready to expand as our region economy grows. When electricity was first available in rural America, most people only used it for lighting. It was convenience. When there was an outage, it could take a few days before it was restored. Today, electricity is part of the critical infrastructure of our lives and is deemed by most as a necessity. Today, there's equipment on the system that automatically restores power when there are temporary interferences such as a branch or an animal on the power line. This is why your lights blink versus losing power completely. Back in the day, it would have caused an outage. Today, the advanced metering infrastructure, which we refer to as AMI, automatically alerts our operating center that power is out and enables staff to restore it quickly. Because nothing is perfect and so much of our system is exposed to harsh Minnesota weather, we know that no matter how hard we try, keeping power on 100% of the time is something we cannot guarantee. Because of this, we offer a standby generator program which provides members with continuity of power if that is important to them. You can learn more about the program on our website. For some members, being a trusted energy resource means we invest in and support renewable energy. The ways we do this include encouraging our power providers to utilize more renewables, investing in cooperative-owned generation systems, and supporting a member's desire to invest in and generate their own power. The Cooperative's first investment in renewable energy was in 2012 when we moved to Orinoco and installed a small solar array on our pole shed to help us learn more about solar energy. Our second investment was in 2013 when we partnered with Freeborn Mauer Electric Cooperative and My Energy to form Minnesota 3 LLC and build a solar array just north of our office in Orinoco. This 517 kilowatt solar array was one of the first in the country where distribution cooperatives owned the generation and sold it back, the energy back to the wholesale provider. This enables Dairyland to save on its wholesale power costs and achieve its renewable goals. The array produces enough energy to power 66 homes annually. Our third investment was in People's Community Solar. The Cooperative's community solar array that was built in the Elgin Business Park along Highway 42 and went live in 2017. It is a 250 kilowatt array. Participation in the community array is ideal for members who want to utilize renewable energy but can't due to circumstances such as location, shade, inadequate structure support, lack of room, zoning restrictions, or budgetary reasons. It also great for those who don't want the hassle and ongoing expenses of operating, maintaining, and insuring personal equipment. Currently, 748 panels, or 91% of the 820 panels, are subscribed to. Our most recent solar project is a partnership between the Cooperative, Olmsted County, and Century Power to build a 1 megawatt solar array in Haverhill Township, which is enough to power 200 homes. Synergy is constructing and will maintain the array, and we will purchase the power directly from them through a power purchase agreement. Construction began in December and is scheduled to be completed in June pending any weather issues. This power purchase agreement will help lower overall cost of the power for the cooperative. Not only do we, the cooperative, invest in renewable energy, but we do our best to help members who invest in their own renewable systems to ensure they are safely interconnected to our distribution system. In August of 2020, we began offering a rebate for member owner solar arrays through our Solar Sense program. The intent of the incentive is to encourage members to install solar arrays that are properly sized to service their household. This reduces excess energy that the cooperative then has to pay average retail rates for due to a state mandate, which would end up being subsidized by the remaining membership. This chart shows the amount of excess energy generated by the members and purchased by the cooperative. You can see the growth in net metering purchases of the excess renewable energy. In addition to local renewable efforts, our primary power provider, Dairyland Cooperative, offers their Evergreen program. Evergreen is Dairyland's voluntary renewable energy program that provides cooperative members an opportunity to voluntarily contribute to the increased use of renewable energy sources without the financial burden of installing their own renewable system. This in turn helps Dairyland increase their renewable generation. Last year, Dairyland expanded the Evergreen program to include businesses. Evergreen for Businesses allows businesses and government entities to meet their green energy or sustainable goals by supporting increased opportunities for additional renewable energy generation sources. As you can see, in the span of less than 10 years, the cooperative has had significant engagement in renewable energy, and we will continue to explore further opportunities. Another facet of being a trusted energy resource is managing energy to help stabilize demand on the grid. This is important because electricity is generated based on the real-time needs of those who consume it, and supply can become an issue as more generation resources are needed to meet the demand. I found that most consumers don't know there are requirements in place for electrical generation companies like Dairyland to be able to provide at least 18.3% more power than their recorded peak time of the regional system peak. When peaks are exceeded, it translates into the need to build more base load generation to meet the demands of the customers. This chart shows the reduction of demand on a peak energy alert day when Dairyland implemented full load control back in February when it was so cold. The orange line shows that Dairyland projected for a 24-hour period of time. As you can see, there are peaks and valleys. The blue line shows the actual demand during the time frame. You can see the dramatic reduction of 143 megawatts of demand when they implemented full load control to shave the peak. To help shave the peak demand and avoid building more base load generation, utilities have been offering energy management programs for decades, and a key driver to managing energy is the timing of when the energy is consumed. Therefore, electrical utilities, including Peoples, offer consumer incentives in exchange for the ability to manage when the consumers use the energy for certain items at their home or business. The intent is to reduce load when energy demand is high or shift usage to times of less demand. At Peoples, we have 8 energy management programs with members to manage their energy use. 7 of these programs offer incentives, and the Power Down program provides a mechanism for members to be alerted during a peak energy event so they can voluntarily shed load on their own if they so choose. One of the longest standing ways to manage energy is through load control receivers like the one pictured. These are connected to electrical, water heaters, home heating and cooling systems, as well as commercial and industrial equipment, and to allow our power provider to shut off power to the items during peak energy events. In exchange, the members receive a lower energy rate for power consumed by the equipment enrolled in the program. We also use incentive rates to encourage energy use during certain times of the day. For example, our off-peak electric vehicle charging rate only allows for charging outside of peak times, and the EV charging time of use rate offers different rates to encourage charging at night when demand is low, but gives the member flexibility to charge whenever they need to. The intent of these rates isn't to promote the growth of EVs, but rather to help manage the demand on the electrical system caused by the growth of EV ownership. The other way we encourage energy management is by offering rebates on energy efficient products. I encourage you to check out the variety of rebates offered for residential and business accounts on our website. We have rebates ranging from appliances, lighting, HVAC systems, to EV charging and solar rebates. There are also custom rebates available for commercial and ag accounts. As we look to the future, almost impossible not to provide innovative energy solutions because the market is driving it. Whether it's energy storage or electrical vehicles, the energy horizon is full of opportunity. Mike is going to talk about electric vehicles and the transition to clean energy, so I don't want to steal his thunder, but I do want to mention innovative energy solutions because the technology seems to change almost daily. And I also want you to know your board and the staff have their eye on what is going on and want to make sure we capitalize on it for the sake of the membership. In closing, being a trusted energy resource has evolved through our 85 years, and no matter how you define trusted energy resource, I hope that we continue to be yours. Mike will now come forward to share his message with you. As Mike comes to the podium, please remember that if you have a question, to enter it into the comments section of either Facebook or YouTube, and Mike and I will respond to them at the closing of the meeting as time allows. Thank you.
Good evening. If you follow the energy industry, you know it's changing at light speed. Whether it's evolving technology in electric vehicles, renewable energy, or energy storage, all are impacting consumer preferences and expectations. This presents both risks and opportunities for us as an electric distribution cooperative. This evening, I'm going to discuss 2 of the most common questions I get asked by members. Number 1, what is Peoples Energy doing in the transition towards clean energy? And number 2, are electric vehicles just a fad, or will they soon be mainstream and replace the internal combustion engine? After that, I will discuss the next step in our 5-year rate restructure plan and end by recognizing a few employees. Let's start by talking about the transition to clean energy. First, what is the energy transition? It is defined as the movement toward carbon-free sources or reduced carbon sources for energy, more simply known as decarbonization. Decarbonization can be achieved by switching out carbon-generating resources such as coal with renewables like solar, wind, hydropower, or biomass as a fuel. It can also include nuclear power. However, there are currently moratoriums on building new nuclear plants, so that isn't currently an option. We all agree that we want a low-carbon future for our children and grandchildren. I want that, you want that, we all want that. The real question is, how quickly can we or should we move there? I think the answer is as quickly as we can within the guardrails of affordability and reliability. As Jerry mentioned, we have methodically begun our march to decarbonizing our power supply by installing local cooperative-owned solar resources in recent years. In a few months, when we finish our most recent project in Haverhill Township, we will have ownership of nearly 2 megawatts of solar resources. Additionally, we receive about 0.5% of our energy sales from member-owned installations, which are primarily solar. Our primary power supplier, Dairyland Power Cooperative, is also making strides toward decarbonization. As Ken mentioned in his message in the annual report, Dairyland added 52 megawatts of wind power in January of this year through a power purchase agreement with the Tatanka Wind Farm in South Dakota, and also has a power purchase agreement with Ranger Solar for 149 megawatts of power from the Badger State Solar Facility in Wisconsin. In June of this year, Dairyland will retire another coal-fired power plant known as Genoa Station Number 3, which accounts for 345 megawatts of capacity. After this retirement, and when the Badger Solar project I just mentioned is online, only 43% of Dairyland's total resource capacity will be from coal. We all have a shared interest in affordability and reliability. Renewable energy is becoming more affordable as technology advances. Lower carbon resources, such as natural gas, are also becoming more affordable. Public sentiment is also driving the push toward more renewables. But the trade-off may be reliability. Intermittent resources such as wind and solar only produce when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining. And at this point, it is difficult to store the amount of energy needed at a utility scale for base load energy needs. The recent widespread power outages in Texas were just another in a series of wake-up call events for the energy industry. We have had 3 such other wake-up call events in recent history, including rolling blackouts this past summer in California, the polar vortex in the upper Midwest in January of 2019, and rolling blackouts in Texas in the summer of 2019. Reliability is crucial when people depend on electricity more than ever. Many rely on it for heating, cooling, charging electronics and communication devices, since most people don't even have a hardwired landline telephone anymore. Not to mention to attend class or perform work, which many of us are now doing from home due to COVID-19. And reliability will become even more critical as the transportation sector moves toward electric charging and more people start driving electric vehicles, as I will talk about shortly. We hear a lot in the media about proposals to reach 100% emission-free electricity by 2050 or sooner. Because of this, we are concerned that some think the transition to carbon-free energy is as easy as just retiring existing power plants and building new wind and solar farms. Research and experience make it clear that a reliable and affordable transition to 100% renewables is not yet achievable with existing technology in cold weather climates. Remember the 2 guardrails? The utility scale battery storage that can store both the amount of energy needed and store it for a long period of time during our cold Midwest winters, is not an affordable option today. We are hopeful that this storage technology or some other technology yet to be developed will eventually fill the void that will allow the energy industry to complete the energy transition to 100% carbon-free. Dairyland has a goal of reducing carbon emissions by 50% by 2030 and is well on its way to achieving it. Dairyland's Strategic Generation Planning Group has now begun analyzing what its carbon reduction goals will be for 2050. I, for one, appreciate Dairyland's methodical approach to realistic carbon reduction that helps us stay within those guardrails of affordability and reliability. To summarize, we believe it's imperative to take a calculated and methodical approach to carbon-free energy resources, and as I've shown you, I believe we're doing just that. The market is moving there on its own rather quickly due to public sentiment and with more favorable economics for renewables. With further advances in technology every day, we don't need legislative or regulatory mandates to move us there. We are going there on our own. Peoples in Dairyland generally care about our environment and the well-being of our membership. We all live here and work here in the upper Midwest and want our kids and our grandkids to enjoy a better and cleaner world than we have right now. You have our commitment that we will work tirelessly to achieve it. Let's move on to the second most asked question I received. Are electric vehicles, or EVs, just a fad, or will they soon be mainstream? Will they replace the internal combustion engine? In my opinion, they are not a fad and may become mainstream faster than most of us think. That's why we need to be prepared as an electric utility and are currently developing an EV charging strategy. It's our vision to be a national leader among rural electric cooperatives for the use of electrification in transportation. In our area where many of us love our pickup trucks, when the Ford F-150 or the Chevy Silverado and the Dodge Ram have an all-electric option, it will be a game changer. If you don't think so, consider this. In April 2020, pickups outsold passenger cars for the first time in the US. The Ford F-150 was the top seller, and they plan to offer an electric F-150 in 2022. GMC is currently taking reservations for their all-electric Hummer with the ability to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and has 350 plus miles of range. GM is also planning to have 30 new EV entries by 2025 that will include the Chevy Silverado. In October, Dodge announced there is an electric Ram pickup in the works, but no timeline has been officially set. So my point is that traditional automakers have made significant investments in electric vehicle technology, and it may not be long before EVs are the only option at dealerships. Consider how fast smartphones became mainstream. For example, the iPhone was released in 2007 and completely disrupted the telecom world within a matter of about 10 years. According to the U.S. Department of Energy's website, in 2010, the Chevy Volt was the first commercially available plug-in hybrid and used battery technology that was developed by the Energy Department. In 2013, Nissan started mass assembling the Leaf, an all-electric car. So if we apply the timeline of the smartphone technology, new auto sales could start to experience a tipping point by 2032 if the all-electric pickup hits the market next year. Now, I fully recognize that there is a significant difference between the cell phone and the auto market, since people tend to own vehicles longer than they do a cell phone, and obviously price points are different. But one thing to consider about electric vehicles is that the push to decarbonize is leading us down the EV path. The transportation sector has replaced the energy sector as the single highest emitter of carbon in the atmosphere. So it makes sense to replace carbon-emitting internal combustion engine vehicles with zero-emission, all-electric vehicles. Now, some may be quick to argue, hey, not so fast. If vehicles are powered by electricity, and that electricity is generated by a fossil fuel, such as coal, nothing is gained. I agree with that to a point, but as you've just heard, our grid is becoming greener very quickly, and we're taking steps to get it there. I have been driving an all-electric vehicle for 18 months, and I love it. What I love is that I don't have to stop at the gas station, ever. Well, I take that back. When my wife asks me to get milk, I'll stop at the gas station. I just plug in my car at home overnight, and I'm good for another 300 miles, even though my daily commute is far less than that. I also love that it's low maintenance. In the last 18 months, I put in windshield washer fluid, and I've rotated the tires twice. When comparing about 2,000 parts in a gas-powered vehicle powertrain to about 20 in an electric vehicle, you can see there's just simply less to maintain. I also love that EVs are fun to drive. Regardless of if you have a Chevy Bolt or a Volkswagen ID4 or a Ford Mustang Mach-E or a Tesla Model S, they're all very snappy and quick on the road. Those of you who have driven an EV certainly know what I'm talking about. And they're inexpensive to operate. Consumer Reports found that the electric vehicles have a lifetime savings of $6,000 to $10,000 when considering the initial price and lower maintenance costs and fuel costs. So no hassle, fun to drive, inexpensive to operate. What's not to love about that? Now the naysayers again will say, yeah, but I can't drive it to my cabin or take it on a long trip because I'll run out of battery power. Every day, more chargers are being added in public spaces. As you know, Tesla has charging stations all across the country, and both General Motors and Ford are investing in charging infrastructure. Federal, state, local governments are also recognizing the need and responding. Your cooperative is also doing its part in this area. If you read the January newsletter, you read the announcement about the cooperative's partnership with 28 other electric cooperatives to form Charge EV LLC, a regional electric vehicle charging network across rural Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota. Charge EV then invested in Zeph Energy, a company that has the largest installed base of open standard chargers in the Midwest. As I stated in that article, the Zeph investment enables us to provide input and feedback based on our needs as utilities in the EV charging market. It positions us to offer innovative energy solutions in the realm of vehicle charging. As this recent article in the New York Times points out, there is another viewpoint out there that it may be a while before EVs rule the road, since the average light-duty vehicle operating in the US today is 12 years old. So even though electric vehicles are projected to make up 60% of new vehicle sales in 2050, the majority of the vehicles on the road would still be gas-powered because today's vehicles are lasting longer. While this view on the speed of EV adoption may turn out to be true, there is another benefit to EVs that may accelerate their adoption, called vehicle-to-grid technology. We generally think of vehicles as only being charged by the grid for transportation use. But electric vehicles can also be designed to allow electricity from the EV's battery to be fed back into the grid during times of high demand. Electric vehicles, like other cars, typically sit unused most of the time. Imagine a future where millions of portable batteries in these electric vehicles are plugged in and ready to either accept electricity from the grid or deliver electricity into the grid, thus helping offset the intermittency of weather-dependent wind and solar generators, as I mentioned earlier. We live in exciting times. New technologies are not only changing how we work, play, and shop, but are also changing the way electricity is generated, transmitted, and consumed. People's Energy looks forward to working together to continue our long-standing history of providing affordable, reliable, and sustainable electricity for our members. In summary, evolving technology in electric vehicles, renewable generation, and energy storage are impacting customer preferences. By engaging more deeply with you, the member, People's Energy intends to create an even greater connection, one that is well beyond transactional, but based on shared values of innovation, sustainability, and community, which establishes us as your trusted energy resource. Since we don't know exactly how new technologies will impact the cooperative and exactly when, it is imperative that we are financially stable as we drive towards the future. This brings me to my next topic, the next step in our 5-year rate plan, which was initiated in 2019. The main objectives of this plan were to create rate equality between like member groups and collect all of our fixed costs in the fixed basic service charge on member bills. In September, we will take the last step in this plan to change the basic service charge for all residential rates and most commercial rates, as well as continue to merge rates between legacy and SMEC members where possible. More information about September's rate change will be published in the newsletter, online, and in bill inserts. If you aren't familiar with our 5-year rate restructure plan, I encourage you to check out the rate restructure page on our website. There's a video that explains the reason for the plan and what it entails. There's also a list of frequently asked questions. So last, but certainly not least, I'd like to recognize a few of our employees who hit significant milestones in 2020. The first is Shane Lacey, one of our construction crew leads. Shane marked 25 years of service as a line worker in May of 2020. We had 3 retirements in 2020. The first was Rick Wellick, who retired on January 3rd after 46 years of service. 46 years. Rick spent his entire career working in our engineering department as a staking field engineer. The next is Scott Hubbard, who retired on January 17th after 35 years of service as a line worker. He was hired in 1984 as an apprentice and became a journeyman in 1988. At the time of his retirement, Scott was the lead area line worker for Area 2, that includes the cities of Elgin and Plainview. And finally, line worker Kevin McDermott. After 24 years of service, Kevin retired on March 31st, right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kevin was the lead area line worker for Area 1, which serves the city of Orinoco and surrounding areas. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have a party to celebrate his retirement, but his fellow line workers saluted him on his last day. Thank you again for joining us online tonight. This concludes my remarks, and I will now introduce this year's director candidates. Before I introduce the candidates, I want to thank the nominating committee for their service in nominating the slate of candidates. This group came together in mid-December to start pursuing candidates and made their nominations in late January. This year's nominating committee members from District 2 are pictured in the back row and are, from left to right, Steve Boyson, Terry Gulbranson, and Jerry Nelson. And from District 4, in the front row, left to right, are Maurice Young, Cindy Stamshore, and Jean Miller. You received information about each of the board candidates in with your ballot and in the annual report. The candidates for the 2021 election are, from District 2, Tony Bauer and Jody Twite. From District 4, incumbent Tracy Lauritsen, Rick Hodney, and Eugene Brent McNallen. Thank you to these 5 people for stepping forward to run for a seat on the board of directors. To announce the results of the director elections, please welcome our corporate attorney, Dan Burnt from the law firm of Dunlap and Seeger.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening. On this year's ballot, you were asked to vote for candidates in 2 districts. The directors elected today will serve 3 years. The members who have been elected to serve on the board of directors are from District 2, Jody Twite, and from District 4, Tracy Lauritsen. Thank you for taking the time to participate in the election process. At this time, I ask that Jody and Tracy join me to pledge the oath of office as a board of director of People's Cooperative Power. Please raise your right hand. Having been duly elected as a director of People's Energy Cooperative, you solemnly swear to perform the duties as directors of the cooperative to the best of your ability and in conformity with the constitutions, laws, and regulations of the United States of America, the state of Minnesota, as well as the articles of incorporation, bylaws, and policies of the cooperative. If so, please answer by saying, I will.
I will. I will.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Dan, and congratulations to the elected board members. Thank you to all the candidates who participated in this year's election. As a reminder, following the adjournment of this meeting, Mike and I will reply to any questions that have been submitted. Is there any unfinished business? Hearing none, is there any new business? There being no further business, I would entertain a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Also move.
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll second.
Got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying no? None? Motion carries and the meeting is officially adjourned. We will take a few minutes as time permits to answer questions. Just one, okay.
Yeah, we have just one question tonight that came in electronically. And the question is there any accounts being set up and money being set aside for disposal, for the disposal of solar panels when their useful life is done, or will that be addressed at the time of disposal? Well, I can tell you that with the Synergy project on a purchase power agreement, there is money set aside within that project for disposal. We have not specifically done so with the Minnesota 3 LLC project that we have. And I don't believe, if you can give me a nod of a head, I don't believe we've done that for our community solar as well. Does anybody know? We'd have to get back to the member on our community solar if we had that, the disposal baked in. The only problem with calculating those costs, though, it's a real shot in the dark at this point, because we're talking 20, 25 years out. We don't know what the cost of disposal of those panels will even be, or if there's going to be an easy recycling mechanism for them panels, and maybe it'll be an item where we won't even incur a cost. Maybe people pay us to recycle the panels. So I don't have a solid answer for you, but I do appreciate the question from the membership. Thank you.
So it's my understanding that there was a bit of a challenge with questions through YouTube. So if there's anybody watching on YouTube this evening who does have a question, please feel free to email us at memberrelations@peoplesenergy.coop. That's memberrelations@peoplesenergy.coop. Thank you for joining us this evening. This concludes our meeting, and have a great night.